Our lesson today is going to allow us to practice more with the distributive property. Remember, to use the distributive property, you're going to distribute the term that's on the outside of the parentheses to all terms that are inside of the parentheses. And today we're going to focus by multiplying by a negative. The number that's going to be on the outside of the parentheses is going to be a negative number. Negative a multiplying b plus c is equal to negative a times b, and then minus a, because that's a negative a, times the value of c. So negative 4 multiplying 10 minus 3 is the same as negative 4 times 10, and then minus 4 again, because that's a negative 4 times negative 3. That's a negative 3 right there. Okay, so if we were to do this, this would become negative 40, and then negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. Negative 40 plus 12 is equal to negative 28. If you followed the order of operations here, you'd get the same answer. 10 minus 3 is 7, so this is negative 4 times 7, and negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. So they give the exact same result. Okay, so let's practice over here. Negative 6 is multiplying 8 plus 3. This is going to be negative 6 times 8 minus 6 times 3. And again, if we do this, this is negative 6 times 8, which is negative 48. This is negative 6 times 3, which is negative 18. Negative 48 minus 18, these are same signs, so I'm going to add them together, which is going to give me negative 66. And if I follow the order of operations over here, 8 plus 3 is 11, so this is negative 6 times 11, which is also negative 66. In our first example, we're going to draw a picture. What does negative 2 times 2x minus 3 mean? Well, if that was a positive 2, it would mean that I'm going to add two groups of 2x minus 3. But since that's a negative, this means I need the opposite of two groups of 2x minus 3. So let's first start with a group of 2x minus 3. All right, two variables, if you remember from before, those were the long rectangles. So I'm going to make two of those. Okay, and then for the constant, negative 3, all right, I'm going to draw 3 squares. And then what I'm going to do, all right, because I need to do the opposite of this, all right, 2x was positive, so the opposite of that, that means these need to be negative. And negative 3, but I need the opposite of that, which means these three are going to be positive. So 1, 2, 3 positives. Okay, so this is one group. I'm going to need another group of this same picture. So I'm going to draw this picture again. I'm going to draw in my two negative variables and 1, 2, 3 squares that I need to make positive. Again, because I'm doing the opposite of negative 3, I need positive 3. And now if I were to combine the terms that are similar, I have two negatives, two more negative variables. Negative 2x and negative 2x is negative 4x. And then 3 constants and 3 more constants. 3 plus 3 is a positive 6. Okay, so this means that negative 2 multiplying 2x minus 3 is negative 4x plus 6. I can show that with the distributive property. Again, the number that's on the outside will multiply everything that's inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to have negative 2 multiplying 2x, and then I'm going to have minus 2, again, because that's a negative 2 multiplying negative 3. And now if we multiply, negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. And you can see that I get the same exact answer as I did with the algebra tiles. Let's do some more practice distributing a negative number. Negative 4 multiplying x plus 7. I'm going to do negative 4 multiplying 1x. And then I'm going to do minus 4 multiplying 7. That's a negative 4, so I wrote minus 4. And now when we multiply, negative 4 times 1x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. And so this is the equivalent expression, negative 4x minus 28. In example number 4, I'm going to distribute the negative 6. Negative 6 is multiplying 1a, and then negative 6 is multiplying the positive 4. Negative 6 times 1a is negative 6a. Negative 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. So negative 6a minus 24 is the equivalent expression. In the past, we've seen a negative by itself on the outside of the parentheses. When there's a negative by itself on the outside of the parentheses, what integer is being distributed? Well, we need to remember that that's the integer -1. A negative symbol all by itself is really the number -1. So in this first example, we can draw that in there. We can make that -1 multiplying in parentheses 5x plus 8. Let's distribute the -1. We're going to do -1 times 5x minus 1 times 8. Again, -1 times 8. And so -1 times 5x is -5x. -1 times 8 is -8. So -5x minus 8 is the equivalent expression. In the next example, again, that's a -1 outside of the parentheses. So we'll do -1 times -9x minus 1 times -12. And -1 times -9x is positive 9x. -1 times -12 is positive 12. So the equivalent expression says 9x plus 12. Okay, so again, if you have that negative all by itself on the outside of the parentheses, that's the number -1. In the next example, we have a more challenging problem. We're going to simplify the expression using the distributive property, and then we're going to combine the like terms. And so in this example, and I have in parentheses -2a plus 7 minus in parentheses 4a plus 7. And it doesn't look like there's anything that needs to be distributed, but remember that there are numbers in front of those parentheses. In front of this first set of parentheses, there's an invisible 1 that's right there. Okay, so I'm going to distribute 1 to each term here. Then this minus is what we were just talking about up above. When we've got that minus by itself in front of the parentheses, that's the number -1 that I need to distribute to each term here. Okay, so if I distribute 1 to the first set, 1 times -2a plus 1 times 7. And then if I distribute -1 to the second set, -1 times 4a minus 1 times 7. I need to multiply to figure out what my expression is going to say. So 1 times -2a is -2a. 1 times 7 is 7. -1 times 4a is -4a. And -1 times 7 is -7, so minus 7. So we have -2a plus 7 minus 4a minus 7. And now what we're going to do is rearrange so that our variable terms are in front. -2a minus 4a, constants at the end, plus 7 minus 7. And now what we need to do is combine our variable terms first. -2a minus 4a. -2a minus 4a, they're the same sign, so I'm going to add. That's going to give us -6a. Bring down the constants, plus 7 minus 7. And now when we take a look at the constants, well, in this example, they're opposites. Positive 7 and -7 makes 0. Okay, so this is -6a plus 0. So I could just say -6a is going to be my answer. Okay, my answer to this expression is -6a. Let's do some more practice distributing and then combining our like terms. In number 9, I have 3 multiplying y plus 7 in parentheses, and then plus 7y plus 8. So remember, I have to distribute the 3 to these terms in parentheses first before I can add on the 7y plus 8. So if I distribute the 3, that's going to be 3 times 1y plus 3 times 7. And I'm just going to bring down plus 7y plus 8. When you multiply 3 times 1y, well, that makes 3y. 3 times 7 makes 21, so plus 21. And then bring down plus 7y plus 8. Now we're going to rearrange our terms, variables in front, so 3y plus 7y, constants at the end, plus 21 plus 8. And now we'll combine our variable terms. 3y plus 7y is 10y, plus 21 plus 8. And now we'll combine our constants. 21 plus 8 is 29, so we're going to have 10y plus 29. Variable terms and constants can't combine, so that's our new simplified expression. In example 11, we have 4m minus 2 multiplying 7m plus 3 in parentheses minus 12. So again, I have to distribute this -2 to the terms in the parentheses as my first step. So I'm just going to bring down 4m. And now if we distribute the -2, minus 2 times 7m, minus 2 times 3, and then just bring down the -12. Okay, if we multiply, we're going to have 4m. -2 times 7m is -14m. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, minus 12. This is already in order. My variable terms are in front, constants at their ends, so let's go ahead and do the variable terms. 4m minus 14m. These are different signs, so I'll subtract. 14m minus 4m is 10m, and then it's going to be negative because the negative number has the bigger absolute value. Minus 6 minus 12. And then we can combine our constants. So I'll bring down the negative 10m. These have the same sign, so I'm going to add them together. Negative 6 and negative 12 is negative 18, so I'm going to write minus 18. And then that's our simplified expression. Variable terms and constants can't combine, so we end up with a new expression, negative 10m minus 18. In example 13, I'm going to simplify the expression negative 1/3 times 2 minus 3x plus 3 two different ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the distributive property, which I'm going to do over here. So I need to distribute negative 1/3 to each of these terms. So I'm going to do negative 1/3 times 2, and I'm going to make that 2 over 1. And then minus 1/3 times, that's negative 3x, so I'm going to make that negative 3x over 1. Minus 1/3 times 3, which I'm going to make 3 over 1. Okay, now I'm going to multiply. Negative 1/3 times 2 over 1. There's nothing here to simplify early, so I'm just going to multiply. 1/3 times 2 is 2/3, and then a negative times a positive is a negative, so that's negative 2/3. Okay, then I'm going to multiply over here. All right, a negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to write plus. And then my 3's here can simplify down to 1's. Okay, so this is 1 over 1 times 1 over 1, which is just 1. And then that's actually a 1x, so I'm going to write plus 1x. Okay, and then for my last set over here, this is a negative times a positive, which is a negative, so I'm going to put a minus sign there. My 3's again can simplify the 1's. And then it's 1 over 1 times 1 over 1, which is just 1. So I have negative 2/3 plus 1x minus 1. Okay, I'm going to rearrange it so that my variable's in front, 1x minus 2/3 minus 1. No variable terms to combine, so I'll combine my constants. Same signs, I'll add. This is going to be 1x minus 1 and 2/3. And that's as simplified as that gets. Now I'd get the same thing over here as if I were to combine my similar terms into parentheses first. Okay, so if I put my variable term in front, negative 3x, and then it's plus 2 plus 3, well, I can combine 2 plus 3 to make 5. So this is negative 1/3 times negative 3x plus 5. And now if I distribute negative 1/3 times negative 3x over 1 minus 1/3 times 5 over 1, my 3's here become 1's. A negative times a negative is a positive. 1 over 1 times 1 over 1x is just 1x. And then over here, nothing simplifies, so I just multiply. A negative times a positive is a negative. 1/3 times 5 over 1 is 5/3. And now I'll make this a mixed number. So I've got my 1x minus 3 goes into 5 once with 2/3 left over. So either way, I get the same exact answer. I could distribute to each term inside, or I can combine my similar terms in the parentheses first. I'm going to get the same exact answer. In our last example, we're going to simplify the expression negative 2/5 times 10 plus 15m minus 20n. I'm going to distribute the negative 2/5 to each term inside. So we're going to have negative 2/5 times 10 over 1 minus 2/5 times 15m over 1 minus 2/5 times negative 20n over 1. With the first set, we're going to simplify the 5 and the 10. 5 becomes a 1, 10 becomes a 2. Negative 2 over 1 times 2 over 1 is negative 4. With the second set, the 5 and the 15 simplify. 5's a 1, 15's a 3. Negative 2 over 1 times 3 over 1m is going to be negative 6m. And then with the last set, the 5 and the 20, 5 becomes a 1, 20 becomes a 4. Negative 2 over 1 times negative 4 over 1n, a negative times a negative is a positive, and that becomes 8n. Okay, so we want to rearrange it alphabetically. That's negative 6m plus 8n minus 4 as our simplified expression.